Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this one pricing show. My name is Filip Vucic. I'm a pricing mentor for Fearless Pricing, and this is my namesake.
I'm Filip Zolota. I'm the owner of growth marketing agency Mario. Welcome.
Welcome. Today we're talking about productized services or something of the sort. Basically, selling services like they were products. So it's in general, it seems almost insignificantly simple. It's just surrounding a service within some frame. So all the inputs and all the outputs and everything is set in advance, as opposed to let's say commoditized service duck, right? Practice of, well, I'm going to do this until you stop paying me to do it, right? Which makes sense for commoditized services where quantity means quality. If I'm waiting tables 17 days, that's better than 12 days. Simply is, right? Here it's not about that. Here it's mostly about not what I'm going to do, but what are you going to get out of it. And then scope is clear and a price can be clear at the beginning, right? So what would be an example of a productized service?
Yeah, a good example, we can take maybe something from the realm of marketing agencies. You have the example of full service digital agency, which is selling Google Ads campaigns, social media management, etc., and giving some kind of scope, the line of activities in work surrounding the actual activities. On the other side, with productized service, you have clear outline and selling, creating and generating results for a client and customer. But because what is important, the time consumption, dedicated resources, etc., those information aren't relevant to the client. But what they'll actually get, as you said, that is the primary thing which needs to be in the focus for every expertise-based business offering some level of expert service. So that is important to emphasize and mention in terms of scoping and presentation-wise, because also in addition to that, presenting the product, communicating the product is much, much easier compared to commoditized services, which can be kind of compared, but in the same time, clients are being focused on the quantity of something which is result-wise completely irrelevant for their story.
Yeah, so how many hours did you develop that software? Yes.
Exactly.
That tells you as much as, you know, if I take that website design and print it, how many pages will it be? It doesn't matter. Yeah. You can measure it, but it doesn't tell you anything, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now people say, you know, with services, with products, all the clients are basically the same. If I want to buy a dozen eggs or a Lamborghini, I'm gonna buy a dozen eggs or a Lamborghini, right? They all get the same thing. But in services, things can be more fluid, which is true. And then the question is, how do you standardize? And I think this is more about the sequence, and as we talked before, some check-in steps, right? Because you start, of course, with clients, things are fluid, but when you freeze a part of it and you say it starts here, it ends here, we can continue working on something else. It's not the same thing, right? Then you start from first principles. You start to really know this part well, and then you know which parts you can guarantee and which parts you can't. Because I don't know if you agree, but I think a guarantee of some sort is a part of a productized service.
Exactly.
Right. So it's not a productized service to say I'm going to work on this for 30 hours. That's good, but it's not digging a hole, right? Firstly, I can't really check. If you're digging a hole, I can see how deep it is. But here, you know, I'll sell for you for 30 hours. Have I? Haven't I? So maybe I went to meetings, but maybe I didn't go to the right meetings. Maybe I just lost time, right?
Yeah.
It's not as clear. So there should be a guarantee of some sorts, and I think this is important. There should be a fixed price.
Yeah.
So what they're buying is what you promised at the price which is set from the beginning, and then there's no scope change, and then there is no chance that they will actually have to pay a little bit more or a lot more. Who knows? It's usually a lot, right? And I don't know. I think it's also easier to put the productized service on a website. Because you know, usually it's like, yes, our services begin from $1,000. Okay. I'm wondering where do they end, right? On the subject of guarantees, people say, you know, what do I have to know what I'm doing well enough to know both the minimum and the maximum, because results will vary. And to that, I would say only the minimum. Nobody will be, so if you promise somebody the minimum and deliver more than the minimum, no matter what the current maximum is, for that case, no client will say, you delivered much more than you promised, young man, right?
You failed. You failed,
yes,
just so you know.
Exactly. There's a good game where you try to you look at your cards and you try to predict how well you're going to be in this round, and you lose points whether you went over or under. So you have to try to make your prediction come true. So it's not like that. It's not like that. Promise the minimums, so you know, oh, okay, in my case, the minimum that people have their price increases like 15%. It's usually about 40. The maximum depends, and that's not something that I like talking about or promising, because there were some spectacular cases, but they were very specific, as every client is. Yeah. So it doesn't mean if I'm always promising the same thing that it will always end up as high as for anybody else. But I know my minimums, and I know the usual case, and this is enough for everybody that I work with, right?
Yeah. You can practically manage the expectation and put it out there. So you have the outline and the end goal, which you need to focus on, deliver. And if you gave, and the idea is to give and create and generate extra, awesome. Everybody will be happy. But as I said, the focus on minimum, depending on the previous experience, expertise, and everything, that is a good strategy to follow by default. Yeah.
So this is easier to sell because it's easier, it's less vague to the client. You know what you're going to do, you know what you're capable of. The client doesn't. They barely know what is it that you do. Oh, you're so you do branding and stuff, right? So logos, no. Facebook ad, no, right?
I know design, packaging, maybe.
Yeah, maybe some SEO, maybe not, maybe copywriting, maybe not, maybe front end, back end, right? What does it mean exactly? So here there's clear expectations, there's a clear price, so it's easier to sell. And you were mentioning in the pre-show, you mentioning something about scaling and additional income streams.
Yeah. Good point. Definitely. I'll give one example. So, one colleague of mine, friend, business partner, and I'm mentoring that respectable person in business, doing the brand strategy, brand guidelines, visuals, etc. So that is the core stuff. But through the core stuff, with productizing the service and service scope, we can open additional 8 income streams, which haven't existed previously, because the primary and main focus was on doing branding strategy and everything about it, visual communication, identity, book of standards, etc. But with expansion, we are still connected to the core and the strongest skill set of the person, but we have expanded our portfolio and opened new opportunities business-wise. And that is a benefit, which is a product of setting up the productized service for your expertise-based business. And also you can scale it up and fit according to the price points, price ranges, and aiming your ideal clients and customers. So you have a level of flexibility to focus and target very specifically with every one of the productized service.
And when you say scaling, you don't really mean expanding the scope of an individual client, right? Because this is actually a good solution. Productizing services is a good solution for people who are worried or plagued by the inability to stop clients from expanding scope. Because if you think of it as a product, no one buys you know, 1 scoop of ice cream and then eats it and says, you know, actually you should give me 2 more, right? Buy 2 more. but no, so it has to be understood. As you are worried about scope creep, the client is worried about price creep, because that's a thing, right? Well, we said it's gonna be 8,000, but you know, there's clearly some more work here, so it's actually going to be 12. And if I don't have 12 or don't want to pay 12, well, then I have a half finished product, which is you know, I can't do much with it, or anything, and I already spent the money, or I'm already owing you the money. It doesn't really matter which. So this speaks to that worry of a client, and in my experience, they're okay with giving up any idea of a scope creep if there's also not going to be any talk about any price creep, right? And this is what I say to my clients. So this could take longer. But you're not gonna pay anything more. That's on me. And the flip side is, if I'm done earlier, they don't pay me any less, right? Which is what happens when you stop you know, inventing the wheel with every client, because this is what I used to do as usual. I'm always starting from my own mistakes. I wanted to do interesting stuff. So for this client, we did this and pricing, and for that client, we did something else and pricing. And after a while, I figured out that it's always the pricing. So they have a guy for this, but not for that. So they have a, you know, colleague, somebody, but not for. And basically everybody needed something, and pricing. This is how I niched down into pricing. But also when I just started doing pricing, then I ended up being quick about it, because I've seen it before. I can easily anticipate what the client needs. And because of that, if I was working as a classic service, as a duck service, that would mean less income for me unless I quoted very high prices, like per hour or per day or something, which has its own traps, right? You can do it up to a level, but it would be extremely hard to communicate. Why would your price need to be 5 times as high as most of other people's, although you're like 10 times quicker? But it's still hard to explain this, because that's not what happens in the duck world, right? So since this is not a commodity, it's very hard to actually compare. You'd be hard pressed to do something like this. And this is so it's a balance. You're not gonna get paid more, but you're also not gonna pay less. If you need more work, you're not gonna be compensated for that, which only means that you have to price in the risk, right?
Yeah.
But you're also not going to be penalized for being quick about it. So if you can do it much quicker, you're still going to get the same money, right?
Exactly. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's a great balance, especially as you mentioned. Practically that way, you're in positioning yourself in the role of a partner, not a service provider by default, and also with what is important for the client side, you're mitigating, sometimes even eliminating with the guarantee, etc., the risk for clients. So it is much easier to close a deal, to convert, and actually start doing something, meaning cooperating and generating the value and get to results. Yeah.
Yeah. So two things about risk. First, you mentioned the word partner, and I know it's a popular word, but I'm actually resisting I don't like to use it unless some risk is actually on me. If you're paying me by the hour and it's gonna take how long it's gonna take, then I'm not your partner.
Yeah.
Because I don't take the risk. And if we're going in exactly the wrong direction, you're still paying me to get you there. Once we get there, you're still gonna pay me. And then maybe you're gonna pay me to drive you back and then to the next destination. I just drive where you tell me. I'm not your partner, right?
Yeah.
So
Sorry for the interruption,
yeah,
but I
go
want
on.
to mention that that helped me remind one specific case and scenario when one of my colleagues and friends asked me, Philip, why are you constantly talking about your clients as your partners? They're not your partners. But sorry, they are. The way we are doing things, it is nothing else than partnership. Because as you mentioned, we are not doing something and it lasts until it's finished or whatever. We are truly partnering up with the methodology and the approach. We are doing our stuff in business.
Yeah. What the second thing that I wanted to say, and this is a good thing to remember, is that pricing in the risk means that there's some money earmarked simply because of the risk. This is the difference between an offer and an estimate. So if there's if I give you an estimate for something and it contains about 10 hours of my work, also could be 12, 16, or 30, and it's gonna last until it's done, until you say I don't have any money anymore, or it's done, right? That's an estimate. That's the risk is on you. I'm giving you an estimate, a good guess. I can tell you what it's based on. You're bound to understand at least 20% of it. If you don't, if you're not an expert in what I do, right? If I give you an offer, a real one, that basically means that I say this is going to cost this much.
Yeah.
Which means that if there's going to be 10 hours and the estimate was $1,000, the offer on this would be about $2,500. Why? Well, I have to cover 10 hours, so that's about 1,000, and I have to cover the risk that this is going to take much longer. That's 1,500, right? That's what I mean by price it in. And then, yes, some things will take longer, and you will take that risk. And yes, it's possible that on an individual client basis, you will sometimes lose money, but you're going to earn much more with the ones that where it didn't. So each, in the example that I said, each one, each project where nothing wrong happened covers 1.5 where a case where something wrong happened. So unless you're so even if you were failing half of the time, which probably none of us do, and we wouldn't be in business for long if we did, you're still well ahead of trying to squeeze out the last dollar for every hour that you spend, right? Especially because when you have a productized service, like I said, if you manage to be efficient and be done quicker, that's good for your client and good for you, and everybody's happier with this, right? So there's not a conflict of interest, no sense in padding and stuff like that. Okay, so to wrap it up, I would say prioritizing services is fairly, it's simple, it's not easy. You pick a starting position, so what inputs go in, you pick a guarantee that you can make about the minimum result, and you pick a price that prices in the work and the risk, and you can offer this to a client under the assumption that the scope is not going to change, just like with the ice cream, but also the price is not going to change, even if things get complicated. What did I miss?
Nothing. Only addition, which I already mentioned, is
Go on.
the fact that way you are positioning yourself as a potential partner compared to the one of the service providers, which is definitely good for statistics in terms of deal closing and understanding and managing all the expectations on both ends. And that's it.
Could you think of a case of a swan job, of a swan kind of business where productizing a service isn't a good idea?
Where isn't a good idea?
Yeah.
Yes. Nothing on top of my head at this point. Maybe from your end.
Not really. I'm thinking about maybe some extremely volatile things, but still, even volatile markets have less volatile pockets.
Yeah.
If you know your way around, you can only promise something about somewhere where it can be promised, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if we're going to take a popular example, you can't guarantee results in crypto, right? Not really, the way I see it. But you can guarantee that the client is going to be able to understand enough to make decisions. That's achievable, right? Or if you're teaching somebody to code, you can say you will be able to perform at this level. You can't write the code for them.
Yep.
And but you can get them to a level. So even with volatile markets, I think there's always a possibility of turning at least something into a productized service, and I did that, and I never looked back. So this is why it's something that swan pricing has to be informed and infused by.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, Philip, where can people find you?
People can find me on the LinkedIn because I'm quite active there, and also my agency page, mayo.agency, and my consulting practice, mayo.consulting.
Cool. On my end, also LinkedIn. I'm reviving my YouTube channel soon, and in general, fearless-pricing.com. People, thank you for your time, and see you next time.
See ya.